My name's Marcus, and this happened back in the 90s on April Fool's Day when I was 11 years old. I grew up in this rural part of Louisiana. Back then, my cousin Austin was basically my best friend. We were the same age, both dumb in that 11-year-old way, always messing with each other, climbing trees, throwing rocks into the bayou, doing anything we could to stay out of the house. He stayed over at my place all the time, especially on school nights, because our bus stop was the same. I also have a little brother named James, who was 6. He followed us everywhere. He wanted to be included in everything, and even though Austin and I found him annoying sometimes, we still let him tag along. We lived on the outskirts of town, where houses were spread apart and the roads were long, narrow, and lined with thick woods. To get to the bus stop, we had to walk down this road that felt isolated even in daylight. The worst part was this old abandoned Victorian house, sitting back from the road behind a curtain of hanging branches and Spanish moss. You couldn't see all of it from the street, just enough. A slanted rooftop, a section of the porch, a few dead black windows staring through the trees. Austin and I had been scared of that house for as long as I could remember. We used to dare each other to look at it while we walked by, like if you looked too long, something might look back. A few days before April 1st, Austin got the idea to prank James. He said we should start messing with him early so by April Fool's Day, he'd be completely freaked out. So that afternoon, while James was sitting on the floor playing with toy cars, Austin told him the old house used to belong to a woman who lived there alone 100 years ago. He said people used to hear her crying at night from the woods, and one day she died in the upstairs room facing the road. Then after that, people still saw her at the window. I added to it, saying that if kids walked past the house too many times, she started noticing them. That was enough to make James stop playing and stare at us. But Austin wanted more. The day before April Fool's Day, he dug around in our garage and found this old Halloween ghost decoration my mom had used years earlier. It was one of those cheap props with a pale face and long black cloth hanging down from it. In dim light, though, it looked unsettling enough. Austin's plan was simple. After dinner, before it got fully dark, we'd sneak over to the abandoned house and put the prop in the upstairs front window. Then the next morning, when we walked James to the bus stop, he'd look up and lose his mind. I remember not wanting to do it. I really didn't. But Austin was already carrying the prop under his arm and calling me a chicken, so I went. We waited until the sun was low and the woods had that grayish color they get right before dark. The walk down the road felt different that evening, colder, quieter. The trees on both sides leaned in so much it was like walking through a tunnel. When we got to the house, we stepped off the road and pushed through the overgrown yard. The grass came up to our knees in places. Dead weeds snagged our jeans. The porch looked worse up close, sagging and half swallowed by vines. One of the upstairs windows was cracked, and I noticed faded curtains hanging inside. The front doors were these huge double doors made of dark wood. We'd always seen an old chain around the handles before, but this time it wasn't there anymore. It was lying on the porch, cut clean through. I remember Austin and I both just stared at it. That should have been the moment we turned around. Instead, Austin pushed one of the doors inward, and it opened with this low groan that echoed through the whole house. The smell hit us right away. Rotting wood, wet dust, mildew, like air trapped too long. Inside was this big entrance hall with a grand staircase curving up to the second floor. There were open rooms on both sides of the foyer, both dark, both filled with broken furniture shapes. The walls still had old paintings hanging on them, stern-looking people in cracked frames, their faces faded and warped by age. I swear one of them looked like the eyes had been scratched out. I whispered that we should just leave the prop downstairs and go. Austin shook his head and started up the staircase. Every step creaked under our weight. At the top, the hall stretched left and right, lined with shut doors and torn wallpaper hanging in strips. We stood there trying to figure out which room faced the road. Austin pointed to a door near the front corner of the house and said it had to be that one. We started toward it. That's when we heard it. It was like a person trying to breathe through a throat full of water. Austin turned his flashlight toward the end of the hallway. I wish he hadn't. Something was crouched there in the dark. At first, all I really saw was a pale face. Too pale. It looked almost white against the darkness around it. Then I noticed the mouth, open way too wide, hanging unnaturally low, like its jaw had come loose. Its eyes looked black, not like empty sockets, just so dark it didn't seem real. Its arms were long and thin, bent in a strange way, with bony fingers pressed against the floorboards like it was holding itself up. It wasn't standing like a person. The flashlight shook in Austin's hand, and the beam bounced. In that movement, I saw the thing tilt its head. Then it made that choking inhale again and lurched forward fast enough that both of us screamed. Austin dropped the ghost prop right there in the hall. We ran. I don't remember getting down the stairs, just the sound of our shoes slamming on wood, the front door already open, the cold air outside hitting my face as we tore off the porch and sprinted through the yard. We didn't stop running until we got home. We never told our parents. We were too scared we'd get in trouble for trespassing. And honestly, part of me didn't even want to say it out loud, like talking about it would somehow make it more real. That night, neither of us slept much. The next morning was April 1st. Austin and I acted normal, and James was already nervous before we even got near the old house. I remember him staying close to me as the three of us walked down the road in the early morning fog. When the house came into view through the trees, James suddenly stopped. Then he pointed up and let out this sharp, terrified scream. Austin and I looked. There, in the upstairs front window, was the Halloween ghost prop. Its pale face was pressed near the glass, hanging exactly the way we had planned. Only we never put it there. We never even opened the room. Austin grabbed James, and the three of us ran the rest of the way to the bus stop. I didn't look back. I never went near that house again, and neither did Austin. But I know what we saw in that hallway, and whatever it was after we ran, it finished the prank for us.